One thing that is really important to me is that we be willing to explore, that we're willing to ask questions. I have come across so many times whenever I've been talking to someone who used to go to church, they no longer would call themselves a Christian, and it usually involves they had questions and their leaders and their teachers told them, don't question, just have faith. Don't doubt, just believe it. And they weren't getting any answers, so they walked away thinking there were no answers. And so what I want to do is kind of help explain, maybe give you some foundation to stand on, that as you seek answers, that answers are out there to be found, and that we can explore that God actually wants us to do that, but then how we can do it while retaining our faith. Okay, since this is a conference called Defending Your Faith, I specifically want to focus on how you defend your faith, not just necessarily the faith, showing that Christianity is true, but you as an individual, how you approach whenever you have doubts, whenever you have questions. And so if we're going to talk about faith, we need to kind of define it, right? Well, what do we mean by faith? A lot of times what people will say by faith is they're talking about, oh, well, it's belief without evidence. It's wishful thinking, or as Mark Twain said, it's believing what you know ain't so. All right, but it's actually that definition that ain't so. If you want to talk about what faith is, put simply, faith means trust. Whenever you say, I have faith, what you're saying is, I trust that thing or that person. Faith has an object. You actually direct it at something. You don't just have this abstract idea of faith. And so what faith is that it's us trusting in something or someone. And we do this all the time, right? You trusted, you had faith that your car was going to start when you got in it earlier today. You had some faith that the other drivers on the road were going to obey the laws of the road and not just decide to drive on your side or whatever. You had faith in that pew that you're sitting in right now, that whenever you sat down, it was actually going to hold you, that it wasn't going to just drop you on the floor. And so this is really what faith is. It trust in something for reasons. I've had someone ask me, well, why are there two words? I mean, if faith is trust, then just get rid of that faith word and let's just call it trust. I'm fine with that. But the fact is, we have two words because English is a mishmash, hodgepodge, just conglomeration of different languages that have come together, and we have had some words from over here and some words from over there, and sometimes they're similar. The word for trust, actually its root goes back to some old Germanic language, whereas faith comes from the Latin that got influenced into English, but they both mean the same thing. And so whenever we say we have faith, what we mean is we're trusting. But it's jargon. Different kind of subcultures will have different words for the same thing. And they'll use words in a different way, but they mean the same thing. It's just in their little subculture. Like in church language, we say faith, but we mean trust is really what it gets down to. So when you think about faith as trust, when you think about trust, does anybody trust for no reason? Like none at all. Do you ever just go, I'm going to trust that? Why? Just because. No, you have some reason. You may not think you have much of a reason. Maybe you don't have much of a reason. But if you dig, there really is something that's leading you to think, okay, yes, I will trust that. I will trust there. Doesn't mean it's true, right? You can have misplaced faith. You ever trusted someone and been let down? Right? It doesn't mean that it's a good reason, right? It may be all you got, but hey, there's what it is. But it may not be the greatest reason in the world, but you're going to trust, right? So just because right now we're just defining what faith is, that it's trust in someone or something. Okay, so what about this idea of just having faith? It's fairly common in Christian circles that people will say, just have faith. Well, if you take that phrase, if someone ever gives you that response about something, if you dig, okay, just have faith. Why? Well, because. Why? I mean, if you dig, you might have to play the 2-year-old for a little bit. Why? And they answer that, and you ask why, and that, to get down to what they really are talking about. The fact is, though, a lot of times we accept things, we believe things, we see things, and we don't put it forefront in our mind, but we decide to trust. Well, why do you trust? Because, and we don't really process it. Maybe it's not forefront, maybe it's not something we can articulate, but the reasons are there. So let me show you just kind of an idea. We're going to talk about faith. I'm going to talk about like a bridge. Okay, faith as a bridge. And what happens is you have reasons, right? You're over here at A, and you're kind of determined whether or not you're going to accept and believe or trust in B. Well, the arguments, the evidence, your experience, reasons, those things form the structure, form the supports of the bridge. That's like saying, okay, you can trust this. You can believe this. But just simply having arguments and reasons and evidence doesn't actually make you believe anything. Trust, faith, it's an act of the will where you say, you know what? I'm going to cross this bridge. I'm going to accept that that is true. And it's an act of the will. So let's look at a way some of this might work. Anyone ever eat at a restaurant? Yeah? All right. Let's say that you're at a restaurant. Why are you going to eat at that restaurant? Right? Because you're hungry, because you want something to know. Why are you going to trust that? Why are you going to put your faith in that restaurant? Because you realize that's what you're doing. I mean, you walk into a restaurant, you're just going to sit down, they're going to bring something to you, put it in front of you, you're going to stick it in your mouth. You might quite literally be putting your life in their hands, but you're going to have faith that it's safe and it's okay, and it's going to be not only safe to eat, but enjoyable. Well, what are the reasons you might have for that? Well, there's all kinds of reasons. Maybe you have friends who have eaten there before, and they liked it, and you have similar tastes. You know a lot of people who have eaten there, nobody's been getting sick. You know that there are health codes and safety codes, not just for the restaurant, but going all the way back to the farmers, from the seed in the ground all the way to the food on your plate. There's guidelines and safety and health things that people have to meet. Maybe you know a friend that works there, and you've heard what it's like. Maybe you realize we're in a capitalist society, and that manager, he wants to make some money. And if you get sick, he's not making money because you're not coming back, and you're going to tell 12 of your friends, and they're not ever going to eat there either. So he has an interest in making sure you don't get sick. So you have all these reasons why you can trust that the restaurant is probably a safe bet to go eat at. Now, these may not be forefront in your mind, but they're still there, right? They're still what you were thinking. Now, if you imagine our bridge example, it's like, should I go eat? Okay, well, here's all your reasons of why it's safe to eat. So you choose to put your faith in the restaurant, and off you go and have what is hopefully a good meal. The faith comes in when you actually order your food, sit down, take a bite, and have your meal. Just simply knowing all of this, just simply having the idea doesn't make it faith. It doesn't make it trust. Faith comes in when you act. Faith is an act of the will. It is when you put your trust into something. You might say, okay, well, fine, sure, preacher, I hear you, but a restaurant, I mean, you just listed off a lot of really good ideas, and there's that restaurant. I can see those safety guidelines. I can see that they passed their health inspection. I can see that they're clean. But really, an invisible God who became a man and died on a cross so I could go to heaven, I mean, surely that's going to require some really good evidence. That's got to be a pretty strong bridge if I'm going to accept and believe that. Well, here's the deal. Maybe it could. Maybe there should. Maybe there are. There actually are arguments and reasons, evidence. We're going to get into some of that with some of the other speakers here in a little bit. And so I think you can trust that there is a good bridge to support the choice of accepting that Christianity is true, or to putting your faith in God. But even if you don't know what those reasons are, let's say in our restaurant example that the only bit of evidence you have is your friend said, yeah, it's a good place. So you trust your friend and you go to a restaurant. Now, if that's all you know, does that void all the other reasons? Does that mean all those other reasons don't exist? No, they're still there. You just don't know about them. In the same way, whenever it comes to Christianity, you might have reasons. You might have a little bit of reason. It might be just because my parents said so. It might just be because, well, I've grown up and that's just all I've ever known. Right? Those may be your reasons, and we could argue about whether or not they're good reasons or bad reasons, but it does not change the fact that there's plenty of other good reasons standing behind that, even if you don't know them. Right? Because sometimes the reasons that people believe in God right? It's because my parents said so, or because I was desperate, I was lost, I was alone, I was at rock bottom, I had nowhere to turn, so the only lifeline I had was God. So I reached out and he saved me. That's a wonderful testimony. We don't need to downplay that. But if that is all someone has as their reason, maybe that's all they know. Maybe it is that as they stand there, maybe as you look at the bridge of whether or not you should trust God, you don't see a nice, good, structured bridge. It's a little more scary looking, right? You're looking at that going, I don't know about this. I'm not sure that's something I should trust. Maybe that's not something I need to cross, right? I'm looking at this evidence and it's looking kind of flimsy to me, but I ain't got anywhere else to turn. And I think we've all maybe been in that situation sometimes where you're thinking, Lord, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't even know if you're there, but you're the only thing, the only answer that I can see. And so we trust. And it might be that that is the kind of little flimsy bridge that our faith is looking to cross. But you know the nice thing is that you can get across the bridge and you think, well, hey, that held up. I made it. And maybe from another vantage point, you actually see that it wasn't this flimsy little bridge after all. It actually was a good, strong, sturdy bridge. And there's all kinds of reasons why you can and should trust in God. Put your faith in God. Because we can look and we can say, hey, the universe had a beginning. And anything that begins to exist has to have a cause out of itself. We look at the design in nature and say, hey, you know what? We have machines that people had to design. We see things in nature that surely someone had to design that. We see morality, that there are things you really should not do, and a moral law requires a moral lawgiver. We see the information in our DNA and we say, wow, that's like computer code. Surely it needs a computer programmer. We see the historical evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ and we say, look here, it really happened. We can trust the Bible. And on, and on, and on, and on, and on. The evidence and the arguments and the reasons for believing Christianity go. And you might say, I hear what you're saying, preacher. But whenever I look at my bridge, I'm not seeing that bridge that you're talking about. This is what I look like. You ever Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom? The bridge scene? Right? You're like, that's the bridge I'm looking at. This rickety little rope thing over a chasm. And you know my advice to you? Don't look down. I mean it. Do not look down. Here's the thing. I think because what happens a lot of times is we get in the situation where we're not really sure what to think, we're not really sure what to believe, we're not seeing the answers. There's times where the answers just are not forthcoming, it does not make sense, and it looks like the scary bridge. In high school, I had a friend, 9th, 10th grade, I forget, but it was in high school, and he got his first B. I don't mean his first B in a class. His first B ever on any assignment. He was the kid who made straight A's on everything he did and had perfect attendance. And then in high school, he got his first B. And the depression and the anxiety and everything set in, and his world just was like going to crumble because he got a B. And I'm sitting here looking at my C's and D's going, trade ya, right? But here's the thing. Here's what he did not know that I'm going to tell you right now. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. Don't look down. I skipped one. It's okay to not have all the answers. Have you ever heard a preacher tell you that before? Hey, there's something you don't know. There's something that's hard. There's something that's confusing in the Bible. Guess what? It's okay. You do not have to have all the answers. Do you have all the answers about everything, anything else? I mean, is there anything else in your life that you can say, I have all the answers? Right? Well, whether it's work, whether it's hobbies, right? Finances. You can't balance your checkbook. You're not sure what investments to take. Somewhere along the line, you got to figure out how to send the kids to college. Paycheck to paycheck. I got this debt to pay off, and I just can't seem to make it work. So what do? Oh, well, I give up on money. Well, no, because money's kind of the reality of the world we live in. It's life. You got to do it. It's just the reality in that we walk in. So why is it that whenever it comes to the Bible, and you're talking about thousands of years of human history and church history recorded in a foreign language, in a culture halfway around the world, and you find something confusing, you go, oh well, walk away from God? No, it's the same thing. Just the same way that money's just the reality that we walk in. God, the Bible, Christianity, it's the reality that we walk in. And so yes, you're going to come across things that are hard. You're going to come across things that confuse you. You're going to come across things that you wonder, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Lord, I know that you're good, but this doesn't look good. I don't know what to do with it. So let me give you a little bit of advice. Maybe a little something that can help you out. It's what I like to call the faith from A to Z, right? You know your ABCs? Right? Do we need to sing the song? Can anyone sing it backwards? No? Yeah, well, now, there you go. Uh-oh, what did I do? Did something bad. There we go. Hope it works still. All right, so a lot of times what happens is, let's look at this. We got A to Z. Let's say that A, this is the basic stuff. This is this just basic religious stuff over here, and I messed that up. Let me see if I can figure out how to fix that. There we go. That's your basic stuff over there. That's God exists. There's right and wrong. You sin. The Bible's reliable. This is just basic, elementary Sunday school stuff. Let's say over here, down towards the X, Y, and Z, these are the weird things that no one ever really talks about. Right? These are the questions where you'd come across and you'd go, why was there a naked guy running around in the Garden of Gethsemane? That's kind of strange, Lord. Why would you put that one in there? And everything else in between. God, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, it's only ever happened once, and he volunteered. But why would God ask Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? I don't get that. Why would he tell Joshua when they go into the promised land to kill everybody? I struggle with that. Lord, a flood? Really? Is that the way you had to deal with it? Right? And there's things that you read in the Bible and you think, God, I don't understand this. What do I do with this? And so you wrestle and you have questions. But let me tell you again, it's okay to not have all the answers. Because here's the thing, even though there's things you don't know, there are things that you do know. We're in a Baptist church. There's a great place for an amen right there. Just because there's things you don't know, there are things that you do know. Thank you. And time, you're really affirming, helping my self-esteem there. Time and time again, when I have talked to people, atheists or skeptics, who have once upon a time been in church, they'll say, I read over here and that didn't make any sense, so forget it. Well, now wait a minute. Well, why are you questioning over here? Because you don't understand something over here. Why are you taking the fact that God exists, that you've experienced the Holy Spirit, that you have seen miracles? Why are you going to dismiss all of that because there's a question over here that you don't quite get? And so rather than standing over here on the unknowns and on the questions and on the doubts, and then we look over at the things that we should be sure about, and we start to ask questions about those. No. Stand on the things that you're sure about, and from that firm foundation, then you address the unknown questions. Because your questions and your doubts and your struggles and your confusions are not a reason to push away from God. No, we press into God, seeking answers. Then we say, Lord, I know you're good. I know you're there. Give me some answers I don't understand. And instead of that being a reason to push away from him, we press in and go, Father, help me. Like the man who said, help my unbelief. That rather than just going, oh, well, and letting that cause the anxiety and the doubt and the stress in our walk with Christ, that we say, Lord, I know you're good. I don't get it. Help me to understand. And he might help you. The Bible says that he gives wisdom to those who ask. He might not. There might be things we don't get answers to and that we won't really understand. Maybe it's things that we wouldn't be able to understand even if he were to give us the answers. I remember I was listening to a interchange between an atheist and a Christian, and they were talking about different things in the Bible. And the atheist asked the Christian, well, hey, what do you do about the flood? I mean, because this says that God wiped out everybody, right? Women, children, them too. How does that make you feel? And the Christian said, well, is there an actual point that you're wanting to make? Is there some kind of evidential argument issue that you're wanting to discuss? He says, no. How does it make you feel? I mean, don't you read that and just feel bad? And the guy said, is there actually a point you're trying to make? Is there an issue that we need to have a conversation about, not just how I feel about it, but what the actual truth of the matter is regarding that situation? And the atheist would not let up, and it kind of torpedoed the conversation, and they just had to say, okay, done. But here's the thing. How you feel about it is the wrong question. What is true? That's the question. And you can look at that thing that you don't get, and maybe even it makes you feel a little like, oh, God, I don't know what to do about that. But I know this is true. I know you're real. I know you're good. I know you love me. I don't understand that, Lord. Help me understand it. But even if I don't, let me trust in. You are good. You are real. You love me. You've saved me. And you walk with me. Because it is okay to not have all the answers. You don't have to have all the answers. But the answers are out there. Do not take this. Hear me. I'm not saying be okay. I'm not saying that you just go, oh, I don't have to have the answers. All right, and just get complacent. The answers are out there. Ask God to walk with you. Part of the joy of the journey of discipleship is that as we walk with Christ along the way, learning, seeking those answers hand in hand with him. But as you go, it's okay that you don't have all the answers. Bible says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your strength, and all of your mind. Seek the answers. They're out there. But in the meantime, it's okay to not have all the answers.